Hello and welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew, and today I want to talk about the AMD experience and why I think there's a whole lot of misinformation out there coming from people that haven't bought one, aren't going to use one, and just the general hate that these people are going to spread online, blowing things out of proportion, trying to make things seem worse than they already do. Because as you know, if you've been here for a while, or if you're new to the channel, if this is your first time seeing it, I switched from Nvidia over to AMD about almost 5 months now, and I've been using the 7900 XT every day to do my content creation, to play my games, and to do whatever else on PC that I want to do. And I have run into zero issues preventing me from doing any of that. So, first of all, I want to start this video off with a new update to the AMD's Fluid Motion Frames preview driver that's out. We just got a new update today. During these updates, they're cumulative updates that pretty much bring new features and new stability to the Fluid Motion Frames part of it. But then on top of that, say if new games have come out, you got like Forza Motorsport, we have WRC, EA Sports WRC, we got Call of Duty, all of those games, all of those driver updates will be in these packages as they continue to update these drivers for the Fluid Motion Frames thing. So if you want to stay in the preview thing, you can definitely do that, but you do have to watch out for these, and you do have to re-download and reinstall. Not necessarily. You just have to update it. But you can't do it from the AMD software. You need to actually look up the preview driver on the internet, and then you will just let me show you this just real quick, just so that you can see this before we get into this whole talking head video. Whoops, wrong one. I need this one to be smaller. So let me go ahead and make this right here bigger. This here is the newest update, and then you'll see right down here, it'll tell you like November 9th or October 13th, October 6th. These are the dates that it's been updated. The improvements to driver stability during task switching, improvements to resolve cases, AMD software, Adrenaline Edition, intermittently crashing or failing to display metrics. So I did test some of that. It does seem to be working pretty good so far with the at least with the showing the metrics and stuff like that. They also add to these they'll also bring in the other drivers. Any of the drivers that you're currently on or that you would currently be on, you'll be getting those game update drivers with these updates when they come out. As you can see, they're like a couple weeks apart sometimes. Like this one here was 1 week. This October 13 was a pretty big one. It added HDR support. It also it also made like improvements to like frame pacing and all of that type of stuff, which was really good, and it has been really awesome to have that there. So let's go ahead and get back out here. The AMD's Fluid Motion Frames driver. Adrenaline software is actually a little bit different. When you download this update, you'll have access to like a couple more things that will arrive in this update when it actually does come out around the first of the year. But if you want to get in there, if you have a 6000 series GPU or 7000 series GPU, you can jump in there right now. You can start testing these for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. You can get in there and you can start enjoying the awesome tool that is AMD's Fluid Motion Frames. And I have been using it a lot, believe it or not. Like, I have been using this a lot in conjunction with FSR2 and all of this stuff, playing on different resolutions. Yes, you can still utilize stuff like virtual super resolution, so you can throw because I have a 1440p monitor that I sit here and I play most of the games, the bigger screens for my sim racing and stuff. But I'll be sitting here, and so is what I will do is I'll leave virtual super resolution. Let me show you what some of this stuff is actually. Let's go ahead and close this out, and then I will bring you back into my software real quick so we could talk about this. So you're gonna go into gaming. You'll go over here to display. in your software thing. Actually, let me go ahead and turn off the overlay right now. We don't need that for this. So you'll go into gaming, you go into display, and display will give you right here. It's called virtual super resolution. This here will allow you to display a 4K image on your 1440p monitor and then super sample it down so that it looks incredibly better. So if you've got the headroom to play a game at 4K, like say you've got enough headroom to play a 4K game at like 100 and like 80 frames a second without using, you know, virtual DLS or not DLSS but FSR or anything like that, you can throw it onto 4K, and then it will super sample that down, and so you'll basically get that. But then you can utilize AMD's fluid motion frames right here, the fluid motion frames, and then you can kick that frame rate back up and still be able to have that higher quality image. And it's incredible. Like the symmetry that all of these freaking that all of these features work together with and work in tandem. It's so cool, man. Like, I love AMD's software. I think it is absolutely the bee's knees, man. Like, it's incredible. It's fun to play around with. It's fun to get in here. Radeon Super Resolution, you can basically use this with any game. All you got to do, but you cannot use this and fluid motion frames at the same time. See, like, watch, if I kick that on, it will kick the other thing off. So you can't use super resolution and fluid motion frames at the same time. Like, it will kick that off. It says that they're both enabled right now, but if you get into a game, it'll come up with a little bar right here, a little yellow bar saying, oh yeah, you can't use that at the same time, and you're just like, all right. But you've got things in here, you know, that just make the AMD experience, man. And let me move my camera up over here for a second. Or actually right here. There's nothing going on over here in this corner. Actually, we could probably even make that there a little bit bigger. We can go ahead and utilize a little bit more of this screen real estate. So let me go over this. So you have these buttons right here. Okay, you could do Hyper RX Eco, Hyper RX Quality. Like, you can just select one of these, and a lot of games, not a lot, but I would say maybe 20 or so out of the games that I currently have on my PC. If I flip on Hyper RX, it will automatically enable fluid motion frames, and I'll be able to use that. Some of them games that are already like kind of programmed to use it, those ones there actually do feel a little bit better when you utilize that. But then you'll also have like the global settings that you can get in there and fine tune any game you want. Like, it doesn't matter if it's not on that list. You can get in here. You can flip on AMD's fluid motion frames. There are a few games that absolutely don't work, and it's usually when they first come out for like that week or so, maybe a couple of weeks. You won't be able to use fluid motion frames with some of those. I know that I'm not being able to use it right now with EA Sports WRC. And then I think when Forza Motorsport first came out, I couldn't use it with that. And I did not try to use it with Alan Wake. I had a solid enough frame rate on that, and I just played through that. Here in a little while, I will be testing that out, though, to make some videos on it. But Alan Wake 2, I did not actually test that out on it. So now that like we've talked about all of that, like I want to kind of explain what's going on with the channel. So as I switched over from Nvidia, and here's the thing, guys, like, this is what you got to understand. Nvidia graphics cards are way overhyped. They are. I mean, they're good. Don't get me wrong. They are good. If you go into it with the right mindset, I think you'll be fine. Like, if I would have went into Nvidia with the same mindset that I have right now for AMD, and we'll get to why my mindset's different for AMD, but if I went into Nvidia with this mindset that I currently have right now, I think things would have been significantly better. I wouldn't have got burned as much, and I wouldn't be as not necessarily angry at Nvidia, because Nvidia is Nvidia. It's more the marketing and the overall just hype that surrounds Nvidia that I think suckers people in to like this experience, and when it doesn't happen, then that can leave you feeling bitter. That can leave you feeling upset. And with AMD, like seriously, guys, I had so much anxiety when I was gonna buy it. When I was like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna try AMD. I had so much freaking anxiety buying this card. Like I seriously came into the AMD platform thinking that this was gonna be garbage, thinking that I was gonna have the worst ray tracing performance ever, thinking that like the software was gonna be glitchy and buggy and it wasn't gonna work and I was gonna get stutter struggle on every single game I played. I had a lot of worry when I came into this, but I mean, right after getting it and just being able to have this card absolutely blow the freaking doors off of everything that I played on it, that I used to play on that 3080 that would struggle. Like, this thing has been such a smooth ride. I mean, there's been some little things, but not enough to really care about. And that's the thing. I do think that a lot of people blow the AMD side way out of proportion. Like, I mean, take this for instance, okay? The 40 series launched, and AMD 7000 series launched around the same time. From day one, you've basically had access to frame generation with the 4000 series cards. You've had, DLSS 3. You've had all those things that were pretty much there day one. Like, I get that. I understand. But now as we're starting to get further into it, there's not that many games that actually have access to it. I mean, it came out with like one or two, and that's fine, whatever. But now we're getting to a point where AMD finally, just a couple of months ago, was able to finally release FSR 3, and it only came out with 2 games. Like I get it. Like the whole point of like waiting for AMD to finally catch up, to finally put out these features, and to finally do that can be nerve-wracking. But let's take a step back and look at this for a second, though, because I didn't have access to any of the fluid motion frames or the FSR 3 or anything when I bought this card. I didn't have access to it, and I was still happy with the performance I got, with the ray tracing performance that I've got. I mean, when I came into AMD, I literally thought that path tracing on this card was a pipe dream. Like, it would never happen. I thought we were going to get 6 FPS and that was going to be it. There was going to be nothing to help that. Well, turns out I can actually play games with a 1080p resolution, utilizing upscaling, and still be able to get a playable frame rate. And that was something that I was supposed to not be able to do. So when I able to do that, and on a card that wasn't supposed to be able to do that, period, that right there shows you that, like, look, man, like it might be a generation behind in ray tracing, but we still haven't even gotten all of the full tools yet for the chiplet design from AMD, which is weird, I mean, like, yeah, dude, taking them some time to do that, but man, I was a PlayStation fan for a long time. I got on Xbox, and we waited for the tools for the Xbox and whatever else. And it's more exciting. To be completely honest with you, it's more exciting because when it comes out, and like, your experience is already good. Like, my experience with Xbox was already good. My experience with AMD was already good. But then when like these other things start dropping, and like the price that you pay for an AMD card versus an Nvidia card is significantly lower, and you're just sitting there thinking like, wow, dude, like, this was already a good experience. So when the features do finally come, you're like, oh man, and this is the cherry on top, and it's free. That's really cool. I do kind of wish that some of these other games, were coming out, a little bit more ready, with FSR 3 and the frame gen, like the native frame gen for the actual game that the developers put in there. Because after playing Forspoken and Immortals of Avium with frame gen, absolutely incredible, and it absolutely enhances the experience. It makes it better, and I'm sitting there, and when I was playing Forspoken, with the fluid motion frames running, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it, and I'm hearing like everybody on the internet just like talking down about it, or being like, oh yeah, well, this and this and this, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, dude, this feature was free for me. Like, I didn't pay any extra money for this. I didn't pay like $400 extra for a feature like this. Like, I didn't pay for it, and it absolutely enhances my experience. It makes it better. And I mean, what more do you want? Like honestly, like, what more do you want out of a product? And that's the thing you've got to ask yourself. Honestly, when it comes to buying these graphics cards, or when it comes to, PC gaming in general, like, you gotta ask yourself, what exactly is it that you want? With Nvidia, I think everything is overhyped, and I think when you buy a card, you're when you buy a card and you're like, yeah, it's the best, and then you're sitting there and you're like minimizing things, and you're like, oh yeah, well, if only this worked a little bit better. And then in the other way around, you get into AMD and you're like, wow, I can't believe that works. It's almost as if Nvidia has too much hype and AMD doesn't have enough hype, because I think they're a lot more like equal than a lot of people give AMD credit for. I think that AMD has one hell of a premium experience, as does Nvidia. I think they're both premium experiences, depending on what you're gonna pay for them, though, too. Like, if you do what I did and you come into Nvidia at like a 3060 Ti level, and you're listening to all the other tech tubers and everybody else telling you, yeah, man, this thing's got the power of a 2080 Ti, and you're like, oh yeah, well, that was the top of the line card, so I should at least be able to. No, dude, the 2080 Ti had more VRAM. There was a lot of different things separating those two cards that just wasn't. And it's the false representation that you get when they say that, take this for instance, the 3080, and I'm going to talk about the 3080 because that was the card I had. The 3080 had a 320-bit bus memory. It had 10 gigabytes of VRAM. If you go across and like you say, all right, well, I'm going to go out and buy me a 4060 Ti or a 4060, and then like they're going to be like, yeah, it's got the power, and theoretically it might run a little bit better than that, but that 4060 Ti is not going to run at 4K as well as that 3080 is going to run at 4K. And I learned that the hard way when I had that 3060 Ti. It was that 2080 Ti was going to run 4K games better than that 3060 Ti was going to do. It was just built better because I had a higher bit or a higher bus rate. And so when I think that when new gamers coming from console over to PC, or people just getting into PC, and just feeling like, oh man, Nvidia is the best, and they only have a finite amount of money, they're going to be like, yeah, man, I like Nvidia, but I guess I'm stuck at like a 4060 range, but hey man, it's Nvidia, I got the best, and that can really mess with somebody, man. Like, you buying into a PC experience at a card that is absolutely, you could get way more bang for your buck going with you could probably get like, what is it, like a 7700 XT or something, spend a little bit extra money and get a way better experience if you go with AMD. So that's the thing. And I hear a lot of people being very dismissive of AMD because of that. They're like, oh man, yeah, they're the best bang for your buck or whatever, but you don't get no ray tracing, or you don't get no DLSS, or blah blah blah. Yeah, you're right, but you do get a lot more rasterization power, and you do get I would say honestly, I've gotten a more consistent experience out of the 40 or out of the 7900 XT than I ever got with that 3080 card. A way more consistent experience. And, obviously these cards are both, from a different generation, so I will give the 3080 that, but I don't feel like that 3080 was built in a way that was designed for longevity unless you want to play old games with it. If you want to play old games with it, fine. Like, it was a beast. It absolutely did wonders for a lot of those games I played. But in terms of, and I hear people in the comment section always tell me, yeah, all you cared about is VRAM, and you're right, I do. I care about VRAM a lot because I don't ever want to be in that situation again where I don't have enough. I want to be able to play games with the highest settings possible. I know it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of this, it's a waste of that, but I want to see them at the absolute maximum and have a playable experience. Like, I want to be able to play, some of that at 1440p, and this card has 100% delivered that experience to me, and still been able to let me look at path tracing and still be able to play that a little bit. So when it comes to AMD, I think there's a lot of nonsense out there. There's a lot of stuff out there that makes people really that gives people a lot of anxiety about switching, because you know in your brain when you're looking at that, you're like, I know that 7900 XT has more power than that 4070 Ti. Like, it just makes sense. It's got a higher bit bus rate. It's got way more VRAM. I know that 7900 XT is going to be a way better card than that 4070 Ti. But you're like, oh gosh, it's Nvidia, and it's got, you know what I mean? Like, people will sit online and tell you that is a dumb choice to buy that 7900 XT because you get better ray tracing performance on the 4070 Ti. Yeah, but you can't barely play games at 4K with that card. Like, you might be able to play some older ones, but you are not going to be playing these newer games at 4K on that card, period. Like, you're not going to be able to do it. DLSS isn't going to save you. You know what I mean? Like, with the 7900 XT, you have the ability to play games at 4K. Like, most games that I've tried, like, the minimum I get when I put it in 4K is 40 frames a second. Now I flick on FSR2 and oh my goodness, guess what? It's over 60 frames a second. So yeah, you can get way more 4K experience at over 60 frames a second on a 7900 XT than you're going to get with a 4070 Ti. But if you're okay with 1440p and that's the resolution that you want to stay at and you have no desire to go any higher, I'd still get a 4080 over the 4070 Ti. Like, I just would. I feel like you'll have a significantly better experience. I think, honestly, the 4070 Ti and down, I don't know. I'm not going to say they're bad cards, but they are overpriced. If they were a few $100, hey, look, I'm doing the same thing the Nvidia bros do to AMD. If they were a little bit cheaper, I would recommend them. But no, I would recommend you all the way up to a 4080. Oh, no. All the way up to a 4080, I would recommend a 7900 XTX. I would. I mean, yeah, you could, and that's where you're at. Like, you'll have to just, it will honestly depend. Do you really need that ray tracing, or do you just want to have a good gaming experience? I mean, I guess it all boils down to who likes Call of Duty the most. If you like Call of Duty, go with the AMD card. If Cyberpunk 2077 is your jam, maybe go with the 4080. Like, if I would only recommend Nvidia to people that are absolute have to have ray tracing people, because if you don't care that much about ray tracing, the 7900 XT and the XTX give you reasonable ray tracing performance for the entry price of those cards. It does. I've been able to play every game I got that has ray tracing. I've been able to play them all. There are games that run exceptionally well with ray tracing because it's designed around AMD and it looks good and it runs just fine. But then you got the games, like a handful of games that are absolutely built with Nvidia in mind that do tend to struggle a bit more on the AMD. But not even all of the features for AMD are actually in those games. There's no FSR3, there's no frame gen or any of that stuff. So you're basically at a loss anyways, you know, just like when Starfield came out without DLSS, you know, that was optimized better for AMD because it's built for Xbox, it's built for AMD. I mean, obviously. So yeah, they found a way to make it run and feel better on an AMD graphics card. So I get that. And PC space is so annoying sometimes. So annoying sometimes, my friends. But all right, my friends, that's it for tonight. If you guys like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm trying to change up the content a little bit, try to be more informative, less controversial, you know, and 100% still rocking AMD, and I'm still supporting them. And I do. I want people to be more hyped about AMD because I do not think they get treated fairly in the PC gaming space. I think there are just too many influential people out there that are way too negative on AMD because it has not given me any of the problems that these guys are claiming. at all. And it has been an exceptional experience for me in PC gaming. So, all right, my friends, we will see you guys in the next one. And thank you for watching.